Welcome to the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast.
Hello everyone, this is Jarvis Scott with What's Happening Birmingham. Today I have the honor and pleasure being with NuYork from 95.7 Jamz. She is the host of the Midday Kickback from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So NuYork, thank you for coming on today.
Absolutely, thank you, Jarvis.
Great. Want to bring my friend on to talk about what she's been up to and just give her thoughts on a variety of issues. So NuYork, thank you again. And
absolutely.
My first question I want to ask you is, how did you get into radio?
I was one of those students coming from New York. I moved to Birmingham. Actually, I started off high school in Madison, Alabama. So I was about 15, 16. I graduated, went to Alabama A&M from the HBCU, and I took up a major in music and business. So at the time, I wanted to study music business and learn the studio label side. But they didn't really offer that course, so I had to split it up to where I was learning music theory and business classes, which in the end ended up working out in my favor. But yeah, I started out there, and they require you to do an internship in order to graduate. So my thing was, I wasn't sure what field I wanted to work in. I just knew it had to be surrounded by music. And so I worked at a studio, record label, independent record labels. I didn't make it to TV yet because right before I was headed to TV, I was interning at a radio station. And I do tell this story a lot, so people who are familiar with me may know this story. But I was still in high school, and I just loved the behind the scenes look of everything. I just wanted to know how they made everything come together. So I would always go to this music festival that they held in Huntsville, Alabama. And I remember the station I first got my internship at was 103 WUP.
Okay. So
I would literally network my behind off, meet people, not necessarily people that work with the station, but just different artists, managers, and things like that, label people, and they would always give me passes to this event. Every year I would show up, and then eventually one of the promotions directors that worked at WEUP at the time, he's not there anymore, John Chambers, he came up to me and he was like, "Yo, who are you? How do you keep getting back here?" And I was like, "What you mean?" I was like, "I know such and such knows me, and they put me back here, they give me a pass." And he was like, "I see you every year." They was like, "How about you just work for the station?" I said, "Well, that'd be great. I don't have to sneak in here anymore."
Okay.
So they ended up giving me an internship. I was there for about 3 years. And then it was just history ever since. It was something that just kind of happened, and as I started learning the ins and outs of radio, I just started to fall in love with it. So I stayed there, like I said, for 3 years. I ended up working in a club because I am not your typical 9 to 5 person.
Okay.
My routine has to change. That's just the nature of who I am. And so I ended up going to this club that was called the Green Room at the time. And they had different nights for people, adult night, they had the young people night on the weekend, college night, and things like that. And so I went in there and I was like, "Hey, I'm Nikki, and I would love to be your host for this club." And it's like, "Oh, you ever served or waited anybody before?" And I said, "No, I want to host your club, on the microphone." And they just looked at me like, "Who is this girl?" I mean, I had to be maybe 17, 18 at the time. I was very young. So, they were basically like, "You're too young to kind of get in here." So I had to wait a little bit. And once I officially turned, I believe, 21, they hired me. And so I went from hosting 2 nights a week to damn near 7 nights a week. And from there, I had met one of my good friends. He's no longer here. His name was DJ Bryan Baldwin. And he taught me how to DJ.
Okay.
So I ended up learning how to DJ from him.
Okay.
And then they ended up giving me my own night. I was doing an adult night.
Okay.
At a young age, playing 70s, 80s music, and people were looking at me like, "How do you know this stuff?" And before you knew it, they were trying to give me more nights. So one night there was a program director from an urban AC station that came through. I guess that was just the spot people go to when they get off work. And he approached me and he was like, "Hey, you ever thought about doing radio?" And And I said, I tried that. I did an internship at a hip hop station, and you know, it was cool. And he was like, well, I'd like to offer you a job on the weekends. And so I end up auditioning, and next thing you know, I'm working at an urban AC station at the age of 21, still in college, sophomore year, and man, that was my first official radio job. And once I learned the ins and outs of that, like I was in it for, gosh, I probably stayed there for like two years. And then I made my transition to Birmingham. So it's just kind of one of those things that just happened. It flowed, and I feel like, you know, life will show you the direction that you're supposed to go in. You just have to have the vision of where you want to go, and then God will do the rest for you. And that's just kind of what happened, you know, because I never made it to TV, even though that was my first love. So I just ended up falling in love with radio, and it just kept happening and working, you know.
So when you got here, you was on the morning show. That's why I first remember hearing you.
And I met B Money actually at my first time going to the BET Hip Hop Awards, because I was a huge believer in networking, and so I had met one of the tour DJs for the BET college takeovers that they used to do.
Oh, I remember those.
Right. Bring back the good old days when they used to do that. And so one of the DJs hit me up, and he was like, hey, I got extra tickets to the Hip Hop Awards. It's in Atlanta. Would you like to go? I had to work that day.
Okay.
But I totally called off sick. Somebody might be learning that for the first time right now. It's too late to punish me for it. Sorry about that. I was not sick. And I met B Money in one of the lines. And we end up like just kind of connecting. You know, it's a networking thing when you go to the BET Hip Hop Awards. And so one day he hit me up and he was like, hey, we got an opening for the morning show if you want to audition. And then from there, man, everything else just kind of took off, you know. And I've been here ever since. It's going on 11 years. Maybe on 12 years.
Oh,
I've lost count. I've been here for a while.
Oh, okay. So when did you get the promotion for programming director?
You have to go through each morning show. So I started off with Buck Wild. Everybody's very familiar about him.
I remember Buck.
You know, that's where Ricky got his start. Ebony Arrington, Love Her, Africa, Tammy. A lot of the greats who live in big markets doing major things started right here from 95.7 Jamz through Buck Wild, who's a great teacher. A lot of people may not have liked him because of his mouth. He was very blunt about everything and kind of rude at times, but he was a great teacher. And so I went from that show to the Roy Wood Jr. show. Roy Wood Jr. then got a deal with Trevor Noah.
Yeah,
He does the Daily Show. Super proud of him. We still talk all the time. And then so we broke it up into another show, which was a spinoff of what we did with Roy, and it was called the Magic City Morning Show. And that's when we brought back Funny Man and Dwight Stone, who used to work for the station some years ago. And so after that, then you have Ricky Smiley, who finally got syndicated in Birmingham because he's from here. And then everybody kind of got broken up. So then I had my own shift doing middays. At the time, it was 10 to 3. And then D Stone and Funny Man had the afternoon show together because they didn't want to lose the talent because we were all such great talents. And so I did that for a couple of years. I then picked up another market in Greenville, South Carolina. It's kind of like a pop station, which was a really good look because it was showing my versatility. You know, I listen to all kinds of music, not just rap. Obviously gospel, I love gospel, but pop music, occasionally country music, like some of everything, jazz, super eclectic. So shortly after that, Dwight Stone was in transitioning to go to Atlanta because, you know, he has his shows, The Praise Mixdown, and he works with Willie Moore Jr., who's now syndicated in all over the country, and then he also produces a show for a gospel singer named Darlene McCoy. So he decided to move there, but still work with the station. And so in that transition, they gave me the APD role. And as I was learning, which was 3 weeks, I had 3 weeks to learn everything.
Oh, man.
3 seems to be like my magic number because, like, you know, I stayed at several radio stations. Like, my first internship was 3 years. I stayed at my first real job for 3 years. Like, 3 was just the magic number. I would hope that I had like 3 months to learn something over 3 weeks, but literally all I had was 3 weeks. And so he kind of taught me everything, and before I knew it, that December, they were like, all right, well, we want to officially offer you the PD position. I was like, whoa, I still have like a whole lot more to learn. What you mean? But this is one of those industries where they have to throw you in the fire, and you just have to learn it on your way as you go. So I've been doing that ever since, and I still kind of balance between doing middays and program directing.
Yeah, because I was about to ask that next question. How do you juggle that constantly?
I'm not gonna lie, it's hard, especially since I have custody of my 3-year-old niece, and so I'm a mother. I'm a new mother, and balancing that with work life and then what I do on the air. I try to make sure that I separate everything. Like, when I'm on the air, I don't talk program director stuff. It's all about my show, mapping it out. What am I going to talk about? Entertainment news? Is there a talk topic? Is there breaking news? Like, my focus is zeroed in on the show. Then after 2, once I get off the air, then I'm in program manager mode. So that's when I handle most of my business. If there are things that need to be addressed before then, they know to come to me before 10 o'clock so that I can get it handled. Because if I have too much work going on in my head while I'm doing my show, you'll be able to tell. I'll sound horrible. Like, I will sound disconnected, unsure. My breaks will be all over the place. I'm very hard on myself. So that's a no-no.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
So how has social media changed over the years, and pertains even to radio? How's radio and social media has kind of merged to have a happy marriage? Or
it's absolutely changed. I have 8 tracks at home. Obviously, I'm not that old, but passed down from family. I have 45s, so I've seen the change when it comes to how we listen to music, and that's really the biggest change that we've undergone, is that the way people are listening is changing. Back when people had CD players and radios, which they don't really have that anymore. Everything is super digital, and social media definitely has a lot to play with that, because it's just about getting access to things and things, being accessible to you, because people don't carry radios anymore. And most of the time when they're listening to music, it's in their car on their commute back and forth to wherever they're going. You're not seeing anybody walk around with people used to rock headphones a lot. You don't really see that unless you're on a flight somewhere, and people are just killing time. So, social media, I want to say, has definitely changed it in many ways. One, because of how people listen, which is through, all of these streaming platforms. And 2, the type of artists that we're playing now. A lot of it comes from social media stars. I'm not going to say that YouTube necessarily was the thing that kicked it off. I feel like there were other platforms before them, even MySpace. Do you remember your
MySpace? I was about, when you said that, I was thinking about Napster.
Exactly.
It was like the kickoff.
And before MySpace, Black Planet.
Yes.
A lot of people have artist accounts, and you would hear their stuff, and it was bootleg, but it was dope at the time. And so, social media is a huge influence on radio, because most of the people that are on my playlist today are from social media. They have a huge following. Everybody wants to be a star now.
Oh, yeah. But one thing I like about it is that you incorporate social media during your radio show.
Absolutely.
So you'll be like, I just got this tweet, or I just saw something on Instagram.
Absolutely.
So it's real time, like how you're going back and forth so the followers can see it.
Absolutely. We have to be ahead of the curve in radio. You can absolutely get left behind. And I think that's what keeps us number one in this market. And it's because we adapt. We're always changing. We're always knowing what the hottest trend is. It's our responsibility and duty to be able to reach out to our core listeners. Our target obviously is 18 to 34. So we need to know what 18 to 34 year olds are doing. And a lot of them are on social media. So if we're not doing that, we're not connecting with them. So yes, I'm very big on that with myself and my staff, as far as how much are we posting, how much are you pushing people towards the website, to your Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, so many outlets. It's really hard to keep up with them, but it's important. You have to, in order to be successful in radio.
Now, another thing I've noticed too that you've done over the years with radio as well is that when there's something like issues going on in the community, you talk about it.
Absolutely. And you know what? I can't even take credit for that. This station has been around for over 20 years. That's been one of the things that they've always focused on. You know, Vital has been around for a long time. I really appreciate Lady Wu because she really cares about the community.
Yeah.
You can tell this is what she loves to do. I mean, her profession is now, you know, in counseling and therapy, so you can tell that she loves to give back and help, you know, people. And so it's our responsibility to keep that platform moving and push it up forward as well. You know, I try to come up with ideas with her all the time of how we can bring it to the next level. She kind of does a good job of doing that on her own. But yeah, that's one of the things. You know, we have Vital, we have our Enough is Enough campaign. It's no shocker to anybody, you know, the type of violence that we deal with in Birmingham. And to be honest, you know, I'm originally from New York. I have been down here long enough to where I claim both. And I will actually say that I'm, you know, from Alabama at certain times because I've been here long enough. And I just feel like when it comes to the violence here, I don't quite understand because times have changed, you know, and I feel like it's not necessary. But at the same time, I can understand why people are the way they are, just in seeing how, you know, the young people are growing up, you know, not just, you know, the millennials, which I'm a part of, you know, the next generations and things like that, and their inability to handle or cope with things. Like, this is such a microwave society where, you know, it's easy to tick somebody off. And I think that, you know, there's a lot of things that contribute to that and why Birmingham is, you know, big on that. And I do see the city growing, so eventually I feel like people will have more things to do, but it's also a mind thing, it's a mental thing, and I have my ideas on that too. But, you know, that's another conversation that we can have about just Birmingham and how I see it growing from the perspective of music and radio and the entertainment industry. But we have a long way to go when it comes to that, in my opinion.
Well, let me ask you this, kind of going back to your original, how did you just decide I wanted my personal name to be New York?
So I did not personally name myself. Buck Wild was the one to do that.
Okay.
He did. And because I would never do that. I'm from New York, and I know that if I went back home, they'd be like, "Oh, who are you to just claim a whole state?" Like, I don't want no trouble, no smoke. So I think it's just because my accent at the time was very heavy. You know, and you know, B Money at the time, he got that twang in his voice. Yes. Got heavy money. Yeah, so it was just kind of obvious, like, okay, you're from New York, you sound like you're from New York, we're gonna call you New York. And he wanted to name me like New York, NEWYORK, but I thought that was just too much, so I changed it to NUYORK out of respect for, you know, the state of New York.
All right, so since you've been in radio for 12 years.
Yes.
12 years, I want to say.
That's Birmingham. Overall, I've been in radio for maybe like 16 years.
Okay, 16 years. Am I remiss? I'm seeing the plaques, but I see a plaque that you all can't see, but straight across. Yes. And that's actually from a local artist.
Right.
What has been some of your, I mean, we'll talk about that in a minute, but what has been some of your biggest accomplishments and achievements you feel?
Well, that's one of them, and we will get into that discussion about just propelling local artists. The other one would be, I just made, like, I always set goals, and I am a person who considers myself to be very thorough when it comes to researching a city and music and things like that. So I've had goals of, you know, being number one in the city and like being number one overall, and we've actually reached that goal. So now I'm setting new goals, which kind of leans more into the local aspect with the artists. That's my main priority and focus right now, is to put somebody on a superstar level to where it's not just nationally, but like globally. And I think we can absolutely achieve that. I mean, we have with Ruben Studdard, like, come on now.
Back in 2003, yeah.
Absolutely.
Taylor Swift. Not Taylor Swift.
Taylor Hicks.
Taylor Hicks.
Yeah.
Bo Bice.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that was another name and everything. So I hate to jump ahead, but he's still right. Well, I love this plaque. I wish you all could see this plaque. But the plaque, can you tell me about the artist?
So the plaque is for YB and Namir. I believe he went to Clay Chalkville. It's like my little brother, you know. He has 2 songs that went platinum, Rubbing Off the Paint and Bounce Out with it. So And to be honest, to be 100, because I've had a lot of talks with him, I play like the mother role with everybody. That's just my natural instinct. I have this thing about violence. And so because I know that Birmingham is so known for violence, it's really hard for me to push an artist that I know is talking about that.
Oh, okay.
And so when I first heard Rubbing Off the Paint, I was like, no. Okay. This is too vulgar. It's graphic. It's not pushing the agenda of where I think Birmingham should be headed. The direction was just backwards. And so I had an issue with it. And I remember talking to Namir's people, and then one day having a conversation with him. And I like to do that to just put things into perspective, because what I wanted him to know is that how you start is how you finish. So are you sure at your age you want to come out talking about guns and drugs and things like that? Because that's who people will always see you as. And once you pick that lane, you can't switch up. People have tried, but they've lost listeners over that. I mean, look at Ja Rule, who started off super hard.
Yes.
And then, started doing tracks with Ashanti and J-Lo, and he was popping. And then once he died off, he was like, let me go back to the streets. And they was like, who? No, bro, you a sellout, you know? And there's a lot of people who are guilty of that, because once that money hits you, people change. They change their tune. So, I had to talk with him just like, are you sure you want to do that? But by that time, the song was already viral. And then when Chris Brown posted it, it really took off then. So it's just like, all right, well, whether you want to change your mind or not, it's out there and it's popping. So this is just what we're going to have to go with. But the thing that I respect about him now is that when he came out with Bounce Out with it, which came a little bit after Rubbing Off the Paint, he changed the tune just a little bit. Like, I wasn't the only person talking to him. Other people were as well. And I know that his mother, really didn't want to push that either. So she was in his ear a lot. And I think he was starting to balance, like, okay, I'm learning the ins and outs of this. And, because he used to post crazy stuff on his Instagram page. And I would be like, no, take those guns off. Why are you doing it? You don't have to look hard. But, that's just what these young people think about right now. It's just, oh, let me show off my gather, this, that. Talking about AK-47s and all kinds of stuff. And I'm like, that ain't going to, make you popular. I know you're trying to be feared or whatever, but it's not necessary. Like, do this the right way and be successful in the right light. And so now when you look, like, his posts are, like, pretty cool. Like, not cool, but they're definitely not what they used to be.
So you see some maturity.
Absolutely. Yeah. And the industry will do that to you, especially if you want some type of longevity in it. And my thing is, I feel like if artists like him learn to just do their research on people that they are kind of like, they'll see where that road will end them, because Gucci Man, who's originally from Birmingham, he does not claim us. He claims Atlanta, and some people choose to do that, and to each his own. But you see where that led him. And so after serving time, he finally learned his lesson, and when he got out, he was like, let me clean up my act. He's now one of the top artists out there. He's very expensive to book. He's changed his whole. Just had to throw that in there.
He was on the classic last year too.
Yeah, there was been a little guap. See what I did there. But yeah, his look is different. He's matured, and he had to learn that life is not really. Now he talks about how much money he has and the good life and things like that. He lost his relatability through that, but at the same time, he knows that talking about those things actually put those things around you in real life. Energy. Even for the people who fake, that they're gangsters and they're all big and bad, my thing is, you can say that, but you're going to end up putting yourself in those situations that you don't want to be in. And it's going to test your gangster. And that's what I had to let Namir know. I was like, if you want to be big and bad, people are going to test you to see if you're big and bad. And then how do you respond? You can't look like a punk because you made yourself look big and bad. So you have to do something to either retaliate or whatever. And so is that what you want to do? Because you're going to cut your career short. And I think that over time, things started to click. And I was hoping that there would be more people who would kind of get that, because before Namir, I was really on an artist named Northside Wheezy.
I remember Northside Wheezy.
The streets love him. He's such a cool guy, you know. It's just when you come from the streets, which I grew up in the hood, I know about all of that. I just made a choice that I don't want to go back to that. You know, I've learned my lessons of what I needed to learn. I don't want to live the hard life. I chose to do differently. And unfortunately, you know, he just got caught up in the situation because he hadn't gotten there mentally. Like, okay, if I'm going to really take this rap thing to the next level, I have to leave certain things behind me. And, you know, whenever he does get out, I do have high hopes for him. I feel like, you know, he was one of those artists where he could be like the T.I. of Birmingham.
Yes,
you know?
I mean, he was hot. Northside Wheezy was hot.
And he still has like a following, so I just hope that, you know, people don't forget about him. Because that's what happens when you get locked up. People forget about you and they move on. Somebody else takes the crown. So
let me ask you this for someone that's watching the podcast right now, and let's just specifically say a local artist.
Yeah.
And they're thinking like, what do I have to do to get my music played on your station? And let me tell y'all this too. She will come back and we're gonna do additional segment because this could be a whole segment within itself.
Absolutely.
But just brief.
And I already feel like a chatty patty right now, so we will definitely table like a full-blown discussion for that. Overall, I'm going to just be super generic, but to the point. Number one, you have to have a hit.
Have a hit, yes.
That sounds simple, but it's not what I get on a daily basis. And it can't be you listen, you know, to the song with your partner, you know, your mama, you know, your auntie said it was dope. Like, you really need to get people who do not know you. You need to get their opinion. If they say it's a hit, and I don't mean it's cool, it's nice, you know, it's rocking, I need it to be like a hit because that's how all of these superstars think. They're not putting out songs or making music just to make it. They're doing it because they feel like it's going to be a hit. Now, does that mean it has to be a great song?
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Because if you listen to how urban or hip hop radio is, all these songs are not great. You know, there's a lot of drug infested songs out there where people are blown out of their mind, but then make the catchiest songs.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, like catchy hook.
Yes.
Like all I need is a hook. You be thinking that.
And there's a system, there's an algorithm to it that I think a lot of people have caught on to, which is why there's an influx of just artists everywhere. But once people catch on to what that is, everything they put out will be a hit. Everything they put out.
I don't know why when you were saying that, I was thinking about that song Because I Got High.
Exactly.
And that was just, nobody knows the lyrics to it, but I just know that hook. Like, because I got high.
Exactly. Now, you have two elements that kind of makes that catchy. One, it's the words in the song, Because I Got High. You're talking about smoking weed. And so that's automatically going to stick because, ooh, this is something we shouldn't be talking about. And then if you listen to the melody of it, it has like a nursery rhyme kind of feel to it. And if you listen to most of these songs that you may not think is super like hot, there's a factor in it that resembles something like a nursery rhyme that makes it catchy. We call them earworms in the radio industry. I can't stand earworms because I will be singing the song for the rest of the day and probably the rest of the week, depending on how catchy it is. That is what determines a hit. If you sing a song, whether you like it or not, you hear it one time and then you keep singing it for the rest of the day, or there's something about it that you remember, man, that's a hit. It's got potential to be a hit.
Or I like when they sample an old song.
Yeah. And
they keep recycling it. And I don't know why I'm thinking about Megan Thee Stallion for some reason. And then even Luke Nasty.
Absolutely. I love Luke Nasty stuff. Megan Thee Stallion, you know, she's the it girl right now.
Yes.
And her producer, shouts out to her producer who got the secret sauce and learned the algorithm, because it's really not that hard. But at the same time, you know, you got to get clearance on a lot of this stuff when you sample other people's things. And so unless you got that kind of money, you know, which they typically let the labels pay for that kind of stuff if they ever get it signed and things like that, you know, I don't really deal with like samples too much. There's just a lot to get into. But they do that because those are proven hits. So they feel like they can take a proven hit and put it on a beat try to make it dope.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, this has to work because
Yes.
back in the day, this song worked then.
Yes.
So I'm going to just make it more current. And most of the time it works. I really haven't heard a song that was a remake that I just thought was an absolute flop. At least not in the last 2 years, I guess.
Wow. So let me kind of wrap this thing. I feel like my inner Vlad TV is catching on. I feel like
I'm talking for days. Like
6 or 7.
Did you put a truth serum in there?
6 or 7. Y'all should do them. We actually met 2 days before this, and I wish I could record that one.
Chatting, okay.
What advice would you give to someone that's trying to get their start in the radio?
Internships are key. That's how I got my start. That's how I would recommend anybody get their start. I always push for that because what it does is it gives you the experience. And nowadays, people are not hiring anybody who's not qualified for the job. So if you go ahead and do that internship, learn the ins and outs of it, kind of prove yourself during that internship. Like, hey, I'm a fast learner. Check out what I learned. Volunteer to do things. 9 times out of 10, you will be seen by someone higher up who will recognize, your efforts, and you'll get a job. That's kind of how I got mine. So I would absolutely recommend an internship. If you're not in school, which kind of makes it harder because I believe that Obama passed the law that kind of made it illegal for certain people to do internships that were unpaid if they weren't receiving a college credit for it. So it's a little difficult if you're not in school, but I guess there are ways around it if you apply for a position, but it's just going to be harder for you to get in without the experience.
All right. And this next question is going to be really fun.
Okay.
I guess I could kind of say final question. I don't want to let her go, y'all.
I feel like I talked your ear off.
Don't want to let her go.
Don't go to sleep.
Let's peek into the future.
Okay.
Because this video is going to be forever, y'all. I'm telling you, I'm not taking this video down. So 5 years from now, where would New York, let's say goals. I'm not going to say be, but just say, what would you where 5 years from now?
5 years from now, I will be doing a multitude of things. Will I still be in radio? If I am, I believe that I will be overseeing multiple stations. I do like to teach people, so I may get into the consulting part of radio. Or wherever radio heads, if it just leads to more digital, which I don't believe radio is going anywhere anytime soon. I mean, it's free. It's the only thing you can get that's free. I also see myself owning a few businesses, probably doing television in some sense. I never got to it, and that's definitely on the bucket list. Will I still be in Alabama is the magic question. I'm not sure. I feel like I still have a responsibility here. And if it's not waking up the community about the violence going on here, maybe it's more so about us learning to come together when it comes to supporting one another, especially when it comes to local artists. So, once that work is done, then I may leave, but it just depends.
Well, we can always do a hologram version of you.
Oh, yeah, you can try. Can you make a couple of copies for me?
A hologram version.
I could definitely use them.
And everything. I'll be remiss before you go. Where can they reach you? Social media, the times.
Absolutely. I'm on Instagram, Facebook. You can just search NuYork, NuYork. Instagram is @NYOnTheRadio. Snapchat @NY957. You can always email me, NuYork, NuYork @957Jamz, JAMZ.com. Or you can check out 957Jamz.com.
All right. Well,
I'm everywhere.
New York, thank you.
I appreciate it.
I
feel like I talk so much.
No.
Don't know what I look like, and I'm going to change that a little bit.
Well, my thing was, I just wanted to reach out to you because I always feel like you're one of the people in Birmingham that's making things happen on an everyday basis.
I appreciate
And the
that.
thing about it, too, is like people hear your voice.
Yes, and never know what I look like.
And we got to connect the face with the voice.
Absolutely.
And I hope, through this video, because I don't know how long it's ran, but,
I ran my mouth. Sorry.
Well, you all look at the Breakfast Club, y'all don't matter what time goes, so you just keep going. But I think people really have found out a different part of you they may have not heard or couldn't have opportunity for. So definitely going to do another part on how to get in the music industry. So we're going to bring some more people from your team, 95.7 Jamz, and you all definitely look out for that one, because that one's going to be really fun.
Brace yourself.
I'm
very blunt, but I promise it's with well-intentioned.
Yes, and also look for the interview I did with Woo is in the archives as well. Look for the YouTube channel. So thank you all for checking out this video. Please check out my website, what'shappeningbirmingham.com, for more videos. And don't forget to subscribe to that YouTube channel, because y'all need 1,000 subscribers real soon. So thank you all again, and bye-bye.
Thank you for watching the What's Happening Birmingham video podcast. Please check out our website, app, or subscribe to our YouTube channel for the latest videos today.